Hello, everybody. Welcome to the third episode of Green Thumbs and Good Vibes, your podcast all about gardening and cultivating vegetables and fruit and the sustainable lifestyle that comes along with it. We're your hosts, Mitchell and Colin, and we are so excited to have you today. So sit back, grab a cup of coffee, we have ours, and join us to begin our journey in cultivating a greener, more sustainable world. So let's get started. All right, folks, today we are going to be talking about seed starting and our individual methods. So I have a way I do it. Mitchell has a way he does it. Some of those things are the same. Some are different. We're going to talk about all of that today. So let's get into it. I think the first thing we should talk about is the seed selection. So Mitchell, why don't you talk to us a little bit about seeds and your journey with seeds? What different methods have you used and what have you landed on?
Yeah, so our current favorite, I don't have the seed packet on me, Botanical Interest.
Oh, here, I got it.
Yeah, if you could show.
Here's what it looks like. Here's a butternut squash for our folks just listening. We're just showing some examples, but Botanical Interests is the name.
Yeah, so we're having good success with this company for sure recently. I have bought seeds from like Walmart before, to name a store, Dollar General, and they're not bad plants if you can get them to grow. However, the germination rate is what the big issue is if you don't get it from a quote-unquote reliable source. So we've had very good success with Botanical Interest. Usually you want to look for, something organic since you're going to be eating the plant, obviously. You want to make sure it's just fresh, healthy, and safe for you. But how about you, Colin?
Yeah, definitely. So I think my first year, I got it at Dollar Tree, like the actual legit, everything's $1 store, And so, man, I can't think of a cheaper way to go than that. But I also do support, if you're interested in trying something out and you really want to go low cost, I'd recommend just buying a higher quality food item that you like to eat, going with the organic choice there, enjoying the higher quality item as a part of your meals, and then maybe saving those seeds and trying that yourself if you do want a seed start. That is the lowest cost. But as far as buying seeds, if you're going to buy, Home Depot is where, I have bought a ton of seeds from there. They have those stands, not terrible options. But once again, I like what you said about you're eating it, right? So you're really, the money savings is not going to come from, a few extra cents per packet, really, because you're getting so many good high quality seeds. That's going to result there again in just more high quality plants, right? So that's why I think it's worth the investment. Yeah, I'm really loving the higher quality, trusted organic sort of route.
Yeah, and that's what I was planning on doing for potatoes, is just going out and buying them from like a regular organic grocery store, and then I know exactly what I'm going to end up with.
Absolutely.
once I plant them.
That's what I do too, because you're going to get more product and, you're probably not going to be able to eat them all, right? So just have a couple, enjoy the, they're delicious. Great. Glad you like them because you're about to grow a bunch, right? So that's awesome. That's the same method I use for potatoes. All right. So let's talk about then, we've got our seed choice, right? You've went out, you've gotten some high quality seeds. What is the next step? Well, the tray, I think, is the next step. So what are we going to put the seeds in? So this is where our sort of methods differ. Let me go ahead. For our folks watching, we are going to do a little extra thing today. Try it out, a little screen sharing so that you can get some better quality content here. So I'm going to be sharing my screen first, talking about the tray that I use. So this is the tray that I use. It's a 16 cell and, it says extra large there. That's just going to, what you get with an extra large size tray is longevity. You're probably going to be doing something like this. You start your seed in a smaller tray or a smaller cup, whatever you would like to call it. You then move it up to a larger pot and then it goes into the garden, right? So what we're talking about with an extra large cell is that first step going into the second is you're just going to have a longer span of time before you have to disturb the roots, right? and that can result in better plants overall. And the real cool thing about this is these silicone bottoms, right? So as you can see, this is a really great price, just $11.44 on Amazon, so very affordable. But these flexible bottoms made out of silicone for popping the whole root system out, it works really, really well. So here's just some more pictures and stuff. But yeah. Oh, and in this picture, you can see that they do come in other sizes. I don't own the smaller or the larger size, but I'm sure they work just as well. So that's the one I use. And it does come with a tray at the bottom. Here's something, regardless of what you buy, let's see here. Where's a picture that shows? Here we go. Whatever you buy, you want it to have a tray in the bottom because of that bottom watering method, is really great for the plants and really great for the root development. So that's something that I would definitely recommend you look for. Mm-hmm. Mitchell, what system do you go with, man?
Yeah, and real quick, did you mention you've been using that for longer than a year, right? The one where you can push up? Yeah, that's a big benefit.
Something to think about. Yeah, you're going to see some choices out there for really great prices that are made out of sort of a thin, flexible plastic or something like that it just feels thin. Anything that feels thin is just not going to last, right? So you're going to be buying that probably every season because what we were saying with this bottom watering, right? It's important that all those cups are sitting at the same level underneath. Obviously, with the one you just saw here, that silicone bottom, that's meant to deform like that. That's great. But it's going to always go back to its original shape. Well, with these thin plastics, you're going to do that same motion, and then they're not going to come down all the way, and you're going to get cells that don't get watered from the tray, and those plants are going to die. So that just is going to shorten, the amount of time you're going to be able to use them successfully. Like Mitchell said, I have one of these that I've used for over 2 years now. I actually brought it from Indiana when I moved out to California. I then bought, I think I have 3 total, 2 additional since I've been out here. Both I think have been used for about a year now. So the longevity in these is really, really great. So that's something to think about when you're buying. So Mitchell, yeah, go ahead. What sort of?
Yeah, let me share my screen here. So this is my first time having a house, and it's the first time that I've started this many seeds at once because now I actually have land to do it with. So I went with, and people who can see my screen, it's called a Bootstrap Farmer 1020 tray. It's from Amazon, comes in a 5-pack, and there are no holes in this. So this container here is what I use to hold the other containers that actually have my seeds in them. So clicking to a different tab here, this is the seed starter trays that I use. And I really like, these are called deep extra large cells. So they are 3 inches deep, and that gives a lot of extra room for the plants to have their roots grow in. So when you eventually transplant them into a pot or into the ground, they'll have a little bit more chance of surviving. I think trays, some of them are typically more around 2 inches, so you get about a whole extra inch of size for them to grow in. And then I just wanted to show as well, you want to label your plants whenever you're planting all these seeds. A lot of plants, when they have what are they called? The starter leaves, the not true leaves, basically, they look very similar between different plants. Once the plant gets taller, you'll probably be able to tell what it is, but if you planted 2 types of tomatoes, you're really not going to be able to tell until maybe you get a tomato, or if one's going to be a lot bigger than the other, then you can tell which plant you're going to have. So I just use a Sharpie with these here. You can get a 100-pack for $5. It's really, and that's going to last multiple seasons too. So it's well worth the investment. And this tray, kind of like what Colin was talking about, durability between different years. This Bootstrap Farmer tray, this thing is very solid. Like, it does not flex hardly much at all whenever I'm moving it around. This is definitely going to last a few years. I can already tell. However, these little, the trays that actually hold the seeds, this is a very thin plastic, like what Colin was talking about. I think these might maybe we'll get 2 uses, but maybe even 1 use depending on how rough you are with them. So it's just another thing to think about. But this is a pack of 300, so that's probably going to last me at least 1 season, probably 2 seasons as well. But yep, that's my system right there.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really good to say. And just to talk about the labeling, something, you know, at the beginning, think about like a beginner gardener. For our friends who are gardeners out there, when you started, you know, you probably were just planting like 1 tomato, 1 cucumber, you know, just like 1 of each. And you probably were buying the plants like already going. But think about the further and further you go along in your seed starting journey, you're going to want to explore the real benefit of seed starting, which is variety. You know, you get varieties that not even your highest quality nurseries might have, you know, because of your ability to choose from these online catalogs. So that's something to think about, because the more varieties you have, the more the plants are going to look the same. You know, you might end up doing 17 peppers, you know, whatever. And there's no way you're going to remember all those until, you know, you actually get the pepper. But, you know, as we talk about on, you know, howtocultivate.com, our website here, that's the home of the podcast and also a home of a lot of great information. You know, we kind of split up this journey into 3 steps: the planning, the planting, and the perfecting of the garden. So that is important in the planning phase, to know how many varieties am I doing, what varieties am I doing, and where are those going to succeed the best, you know? So something to think about. Labeling is really, really an important aspect. And it's something that I'm just saying that because I was lacking so much in that for so many years, you know, and I would just lose track, and I still, you know, occasionally forget things. But what I really like is color coding. So that's something I've gotten into lately. Like as so I label like you do at the beginning with the little tags. Then as I transplant up to a larger pot, I might put all of my, so here's an example, all my beefsteak tomatoes in black pots. And then all of my, you know, you remember the pineapple tomato that we got, the like Harvest Choice or whatever? That one, I have them in green pots, right? So like now I know here are all one variety, here's another variety. And then I can just label one and I know what they all are, right? So that's something to do. And that's a good recommendation. You know, if you do go to a nursery, which there's no shame in that, please do. You know, if you seed start and do that, great. If it doesn't work, there's no shame. You know, you still want that successful garden and that plant growing journey. And seed starting is just the beginning, you know, of the plant care journey there. So if you do go and you transplant into your garden, save those pots. You know, those can really come in useful for things like we're going to be talking about here, which is all of these steps. You're going to need these trays. You might need a bit larger pot before it goes into the garden, you know. So that's a good piece of advice as well.
Okay. Do you want to get into the grow medium, you think, be next?
Yeah, absolutely. So, so I've been through kind of a few different methods with the grow medium. Originally just using like a high quality potting mix. It's a good choice, you know. What you're looking for with a medium is sort of the texture more than is more important than usual with a seed starting medium. And you want it to be real fine, not too many large chunks, because these small, delicate plants, you don't want them to have to try and wiggle around all of this, you know, debris, basically. So a nice fine potting mix works great. But what I've come to now that I think is really the best choice is a 50-50 mix of coconut coir, which is also sort of difficult to find in that fine, you know, particle sort of size, but usually nurseries will have them as like something to add moisture to the soil. So coconut coir, just that shredded coconut husk is basically what that is. And then mixing that in equal parts with worm castings, which you can find at, you know, different plant shops, usually in like a 1 square foot bag or a cubic foot, bag. And those are going to be pretty expensive, worm castings usually, but that bag is really going to last you a long, long time. 1 cubic foot goes a long way when we're talking about, you know, these little tiny cells. So, I think mine was about, you know, $20 or so, you know, for a bag like that. And you're like, whoa, that's a lot, but you know, you're going to last a while with that. So
Is that
Anyway,
cheap?
with that mix, those worm castings are just packed with nutrients that are really available to those young plants and not likely to like burn the roots or like overfeed. You know what I'm saying? So
Oh, I see.
good
It's
choice
just you can just get it at like Walmart. They have worm castings too.
I'm not sure. That's a good question. I get mine at a nursery that has a good selection of vegetables and stuff.
Okay.
Herbs,
Is that cheaper, you think, doing it yourself rather than buying just the potting mix itself? Or is it kind of similar?
That's a good question. So let me do the math there. So when I bought a bag I would get about a quarter of a cubic foot bag, and I'd pay about $10 for that. When I was a starter, I got the Miracle Grow seed starting mix. I think that's about, let me look it up so that I'm not messing it up here. And we'll do the calculations. Because I think that's important. Like, if you're really going to save money, going the best route, I think that's important. So this is going to be...
Yeah. Yeah, because I just got the regular, like, organic potting mix this year. But I think it's going to work okay. I'm just not super happy with it because, like you said, there are big chunks of, like, wood chips in there. And then I'm also seeing chunks of, I think it's coconut coir, but like they didn't tear it up completely. So, and it's so thick, I don't think a plant could go through that. It's going to have to go around.
Yeah. So a good solution to that is like get a, you know what I'm talking about? What am I trying to say? Like a sieve? Yeah, sifter. Yeah, sift it a bit. Okay, so what I'm getting here is 8 quarts, an 8-quart bag, which is, just about that big. For $5.50. So, do we know how many quarts are in a cubic foot?
Ooh, we're Americans. I don't know. It's
Here,
metric system.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know. Okay, we're gonna go and ask Google. How many? So while I'm checking this out and doing the math, why don't you? What's your favorite thing that you've started that you're like, man, I'm pumped about that one?
I feel like it's kind of basic, but I'm really excited about the tall sunflower because I started, either 12 or 18, like quite a few, and I just want to put them in different spots of my house, basically. So pretty much any direction that I'm looking. My backyard or my front yard, I want to be able to see a sunflower in my field of view.
That's
I'm very
awesome.
excited about that. Yeah. And I started a little bit of extra peppers, a little bit of extra tomatoes. So I'm very excited about those as well.
Sweet. So, okay, here's what I got. 30 quarts and a cubic foot. Okay. So 8 would be about a fourth or so.
Yeah.
Fourth of a cubic foot, let's just say. Make it easy round numbers. So I'm getting a fourth of a cubic foot for $5.50, but with the coconut coir, I got blocks for $3. I got, well, let's just say, how many of those would I need to do a full cubic foot? Probably about 4, let's say. So we're talking like $12 there, and then about $20. So $32 for, that would be about 2 cubic feet because these little bricks, they expand a lot. And so 4 of them is about a cubic foot. Okay. So if we're doing, let me do it on my calculator here.
Secret math podcast right here.
Yeah.
Gardening and math. I have heard too, like the potting mix that you can buy from stores can contain certain chemicals that you really don't want in plants that you're eating as well. So that can just be another benefit of putting it together yourself. You know exactly what you're putting into your body, what your plants are taking up. And I think it'd be a little bit better for the environment, even if it costs a little bit more. Just do what's best for you, what works for you.
Yeah. So here's what we have. The Miracle Grow is about, per quart is what I'm doing, is about 70 cents a quart. And the larger option, the half coconut coir, half worm castings, is about $1 a quart.
Okay.
So it is
just
a little bit more
bit.
expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I did run into some issues though with the Miracle Grow. One, I don't think it's classified as organic. Two, though the texture was good, I don't think the nutrient content was very good. It was a lot of coconut coir is what it looked like. And the plants got really lanky, even if I had good lighting. So that was unfortunate. But so just something to think about. There's some price ranges for you on the medium. So here's another thing that I've run into. So you're starting your seeds, you got your tray, you're watering, keeping them nice and moist so that the seeds can germinate. Now they come up, like Mitchell was talking about, you're going to see 2 like baby leaves or, seedling leaves, and then you're going to see 2 true leaves, right? So those true leaves are going to look like the leaves of the tomato plant. You're going to have a tomato looking leaf, those segmented, Once you see those first 2 initial true leaves, they're called, I recommend adding a organic liquid fertilizer in a very dilute amount to your seedling. So here's the one I use. It's called True Organic. Okay, and it's a liquid all-purpose plant food. Okay, and it's just balanced. It's it's a 3-2-2. So pretty equal balance. And I dilute it to about 1/4 of the recommended dose or whatever to water for the seedlings, because they are young. Those roots are still very tender and can burn easily. So you want to dilute that more than usual, and you definitely want to go with an organic option there, because you're going to have less likelihood of overfeeding with an organic option as well.
So do you still bottom water whenever you do that fertilizer, right? I assume you don't want to get that directly on the leaves just in case it burns them when they're so young.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I just I make the dilution, the mix, and then I just pour it in the bottom like a normal watering when I see those first initial, true leaves. And then I do it probably about once a week, or, if they might not even need water that much, depends on how humid of an environment it is. But just, if I see that growth starting to really come up, maybe 7 to 10 days, let's say. Until you get those 2 sets or 3 sets of true leaves. So that's 4 or 6 true leaves. Then you're ready to go ahead and transplant or pot up, if you're not ready to go into the garden yet, if you're out of season or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And just a random question as well. I started watering my plants recently, but my seedlings, how much water level do you like to keep in your trays, like the little tray here? How deep do you want the water to be, and do you always want standing water sitting in there, or if the soil looks damp, is that wet enough, you think?
Yeah, so I definitely want to see a cycle here. So I would say maybe no more than let's just say like an inch or so from the bottom of standing water, if they're totally dry or or drying out or whatever, ready for a water, an inch there. And then let that totally be soaked up. Let it go all the way down to the bottom. Then watch the soil. Maybe a day after that, maybe 2 days after that, something like that. And then hit it again. And just let the plants see that cycle, because that's going to be the natural cycle. Like, especially where you live, where you're going to get rain. There's going to be wet times. There's going to be times where the soil's a little bit drier. It needs to be able to handle all of that. And if you're keeping it consistently wet, you're going to see like really, the roots are going to go crazy probably, and they're going to go down into the water of the tray, and you're going to be growing a plant basically hydroponically. It's going to be more devoted to the nutrient-rich water. It's not going to be able to handle the soil as well when it's transplanted, so you're higher risk of failure there. But
that's true.
So that cycle's good to teach the plant, like, okay, here's what you're going to be dealing with.
Okay. Yeah, and I got the as well, when you're starting the seeds, the film you can put on top, like the saran wrap, basically, just to give the plant a very humid environment. It's going to hold in that moisture. And then once you see the plants pop up, though, go ahead and take that saran wrap off. You don't want it to be there when the plants are actually coming up and you're seeing green, or else it can just kind of spoil the plants. It could give them diseases basically because they're too wet.
Yeah, and here's how I do that. So I'll water. So that tray at the bottom, I'll water everything, and I'll let that soak in, right after I plant my seeds. And then once it's soaked in, I'll empty the water out of the tray, and I'll flip that upside down, put it on top until I see the seeds pop up. Because the seeds are going to pop up within the week. And, those roots are like one root at that time. There's not a lot of water consumption, so it's going to stay moist throughout that time, especially with the sort of little bit of precipitation that's happening with the dome, or the saran wrap. So, and then once I see, like you said, then I just flip it under and we start bottom watering to encourage those roots to go down and kind of take over that little soil patch there.
Okay. Oh, so you do top water to start?
Yeah, I kind of do both. So this is a good thing that you brought that up. I use a spray bottle as my kind of seed starting watering setup, because I can twist off the top and kind of use that like a watering can. And, this is enough for a tray for a bottom of the size that I have for a bottom water. Probably wouldn't be enough for a size like you have, Mitchell. You have quite a big, you kind of have like a double wide version of what I have. So you might need a little bit more than this. But what's great about this is I can, do that. And then if I have a setup like I've potted up the plant, I can top water like that, or even spritz, if I need to. So at the beginning, to answer your question, when I first put the seed in, I'll top water just to make sure, because that wicking action, that can take a while from the bottom. Yeah. So I'll definitely spray it on the top, making sure that it soaks in and reaches wherever the seed is. And then I'll also bottom water just a little bit, it'll soak it all up. And then after it's soaked it all up, then I know, okay, we're good. We're saturated enough. And I'll put it up on top as a dome. So,
okay. That's funny. I actually did the same exact thing this morning. Like I bottom watered first, and I thought, well, I want to make sure the seeds get some water as well. So I sprayed the tops too, just to make sure.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. And then when you start seeing leaves, it's not as important, because then okay, if I'm seeing leaves, roots are also established. It's getting water.
True. Yep. And I think we should probably talk about lighting for just a second as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So my setup with lighting is I have a cabinet in my home that isn't totally enclosed. It has like some grating on the outside. And I've just put a few lights in that, grow lights. These you can buy at Home Depot. There's a lot of different options. So definitely measure your space. Think about light distance from the plants. You want the plants to be pretty close to the light, but depends on how strong the light is, right? So do a little bit of research on that to figure out what's best for you. You might be able to put the lights really close to the plant. Okay, maybe you can buy cheaper lights that aren't so bright. Well, maybe they need to be really high above. I know Mitchell's setup. He showed it to me today. He has two lights, probably. What would you say, like 2 or 3 feet above?
2 or 3 feet,
but they're high quality lights, so that is going to be okay. The plants are still going to get the light that they need. So whereas I have a smaller space and I can put the lights really close to the plants, so I wanted to go with some strip lights that I could put up there, and they weren't nearly as expensive, I'm sure. So look into where you're going to start there, and think about all the different options when you go, and definitely take measurements, because there's nothing worse than buying a light and then going in and it doesn't fit in the cabinet, so
gosh, yeah,
that can also happen. So the light is important, not necessarily as much when the seeds are sprouting. Some seeds, I guess, do need light to germinate. I know most don't. A lot of people germinate in a drawer, a dark drawer or something like that. And in the soil is dark as well. So, but once they sprout, and definitely once those leaves come up, the light is really important.
Yep. Yeah. And I currently have mine set on I just bought a timer from Walmart that you connect the light plug into, and then you plug that into the wall, and you can set it. You can tell it, like, you set it to what time it is currently, and then you can tell it what times you want it to shut that outlet off. So I have it currently 16 hours of light and then 8 hours of darkness is what I'm doing. So
Yeah,
kind of
that's what I
basically
do.
replicate what goes on outside. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Mitchell, I think your camera might have gone off. Is that what you see too?
I think it looks good to me. It might just be the internet. I still see me.
All right. No problem. Okay, cool. Well, I think that's pretty much covering all the major parts of seed starting. You know what you're looking for with your seeds. How do you know if it's going to be successful? Look for the plants to be nice and stout. You know, not too lanky, not too long, not too much stem without seeing good leaf growth. Also, nice coloring. You know, if you start to see some yellow leaves, look into that. Is that a disease? Is it just an old leaf? Could we remove it? You know, think about all of that. So be attentive to these young plants. Check on them often. You know, that's all really important to the seed starting, is making sure that they get off to a good start. You know.
Yeah, and I want to say too, some people can have like too lanky of plants whenever they're growing it. So just make sure your grow lights aren't too high above your plants, or else they're going to put a lot of their energy into growing taller and taller instead of growing their leaves and growing wider and bigger. And if you try to plant a lanky plant outside, the wind's going to take it down. It's not going to be built for the environment. So there is a good way of growing plants where you start the light close to the seedlings, and then as the plants get taller, slowly raise that light, whether that's with a string or whatever system you can come up with. I don't have that set up right now. I'm just hoping my plants won't be too lanky, but that's a tip there, just if you're getting into that issue.
Yeah, and if the weather's fair, another way to do that is just to, when those plants start to get nice and strong, like we're talking about, pot them up to just a slightly larger pot, or move them outside and start to expose them to that light. And you can even start at like half outside. Like I said, as long as the weather's nice. If it's too cold, then there's going to be kind of unneeded damage, So bring them outside for half the day, let's say, then bring them inside. So they're still getting those longer hours of light, but they're getting a mix, right? And then eventually they're all the way outside, and that's a good way to do that too. One other additional accessory you can add to these setups is a small fan to kind of imitate the wind that is actually going to be experienced with these plants. So that will cause them to, release these certain hormones that kind of make thicker stalks, stronger, more hardy root development, things like that. So it's just all healthy things for the plants. You probably don't want to have them being blown with really heavy winds or being blown all the time, because then they might grow a certain direction or something like that. So cycle it, a few hours a day, let's say, turn the fan on, then turn it off, something like that.
Do you also kind of move your plants around? Like if you have one plant growing in the corner and it's kind of reaching diagonally towards the light, will you move it to the other side, like after a couple of days, just to make sure it grows straight?
Yeah, what I do, so since the way mine are set up, what I find helps a lot is just to, about every week or 2 weeks, flip it 180 degrees. Or, what would probably, I haven't tried this, but probably even better is like a 90-degree turn every week, and just do that so that, because you're probably never going to get like a perfect spread of that light,
Yeah.
And if you're leaving one plant in a hot spot too, can be just as bad. The leaves are burning or something, so that can be really good. Or one's in the dark, like you said.
Okay. Yeah, I do that to my house plants just naturally, so they're not just growing right towards the window. Kind of move them around a little bit. But yeah, these seedlings you're starting, they're going to be a lot weaker than plants that start outside are. They get the wind, they get the rain. So you just want to try to acclimate them as best you can to be a little sturdier than they would be otherwise.
Right. That additional growth, once you plant them outside, it is going to develop sort of the way that an outdoor plant would, but you want to give it the best chance of success so that it can do that natural, outside sort of hardening off or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed the podcast today, everybody. I think that's a pretty wide range of information on seed starting. And, there's a wide range of options. Don't feel like that there's any wrong way to do it here. There are just some things to keep in mind, the longevity of your items, sort of what approach you want to take, your budget, how many plants you're growing and things like that. I know Mitchell and I, one of the concerns was, man, I don't even know if I have enough cells to fill the garden this year. That is an issue at some point, but also some people, hey, I'm only growing a dozen plants. I don't need 100 cells here or 300 cells. I just don't need that. So think about all of those different things, and there's no wrong way to do it, and it's a great part of gardening and a really cool hobby that really can extend the love of gardening sort of year round. Even in colder places in the winter, you can be preparing your plants, for the next time it's warm enough to plant, picking out seeds, getting your setup going. So any last words from you, Mitchell?
Yeah, I was just going to say, by the end of winter, I'm just so dying to be growing plants. So this is a great way to get into the spring season and start preparing and being able to see some green and feel like you're, successfully growing plants again. So, this is my favorite time of the year. Once things start coming back out of the ground, I can plant seeds, and it's a very exciting time. So everyone, I just hope you really enjoy and have fun while you're doing this process.
Yeah. There's nothing like seeing a healthy cucumber in your greenhouse in March, Yeah. So, okay. Well, we hope you enjoyed, episode 4. We're not sure the topic yet, but come back and it'll be informative and fun as per usual. So, all right, everybody. Hope you had a fun time listening, and please join us next time for episode 4. We'll see you then.
Take it easy.